This episode of Beyond the Closing is brought to you by First United Land Transfer.
Hey everyone, this is Lizzie from First United bringing you another episode of Beyond the Closing. Today with me I have Dave Burgio from Trifecta Credit Solutions. Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Lizzie. Thank you for having me. Thank you, First United family. Greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Anytime. You know you're welcome here always. I mean, you've been here multiple times, so
it's like
you know that for
almost
sure.
Like a second home.
Well, that's good, right? And you get the coffee and the cookies if you want. They're there.
Give my little handshake walking by them a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. So, Dave, I'm really just going to jump right into it and just kind of start just grilling you with some questions, if that's okay.
That's absolutely fine.
Can you tell me, like, honestly, what your background and how you got into credit solutions? That has to be unique.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of, you know, when I tell the story how I got here today, it's one of, I don't want to call it like passion. You know, a lot of people say, hey, you're passionate about what you do. Yes, I am to a degree, but how I got here is more looking back at it as curiosity, right? Because, you know, I will age myself a little bit, you know, born in the 80s, come up through the early 90s, right? And the reason that's important is I remember a teacher saying one time, I was in middle school, and he said at that time about a credit card, hey, when you have a credit card, you get it, you pay it off in full, and that's how you use it. And there's some truth to that, right? And there's also some not so true things about just having one credit card. And the reason why that stuck with me at that time, a couple of years before, both my parents ended up getting divorced. And after that, I remember both of them complaining, right, the whole time. Oh, my credit's trash now, all this money for attorneys and all this other stuff. And that always kind of stuck with me. And then you have a teacher kind of say that. And it's like, And, you know, my dad always was in business at that point in time, and I used to be around that environment and see people come in, spending with cash, and talk to them about credit. How comes we don't take credit cards here or anything like that? Oh, cash is king. And still at that point in time, you know, there were no POS systems. So if you did pay with a credit card, it was the old
Okay, I don't know that I've experienced that, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the old carbon paper, you sign it.
Yeah.
And then you get, you know, your invoice in the mail, and then you write a check, you lick a stamp, and you put it in the mailbox, you know, and online billing, all that stuff. The internet barely existed at that point in time. But one of the other biggest things, too, that I think people forget is there was really no way to check your credit score either.
Okay.
You know, so it was like a guessing game. Do I have good credit, and do I not have good credit? You really didn't know unless you applied. And I think that's where the frustration from my parents at that point in time, you know, you're talking early 90s, right? So it's there was like kind of that guessing game. Hey, am I going to get approved or am I not going to get approved? And then fast forward to, you know, 2008, part of that debacle too, to where it kind of put me on the bad side. But, you know, hooray, kumbaya, me, dug myself out, thought I did the good things, and then realizing over that time to where, yeah, it looked good on the surface, but there was a lot of money and time vested into doing it kind of my own way that I legally didn't have to. And I could have saved a lot of time and a lot of money doing it a different way. And kind of those skill sets or that knowledge of going through that myself, you're talking almost 15, 20 years ago now, that I learned through that. And then a course I took in 2016 kind of just piqued that curiosity even more. Like, and it started off as a side hustle. I really started pushing that side hustle in 2018, and we created this brand 4 years ago, and that's the journey today. And if you would ask me why credit or how, like, this was not on my radar at all, and it's just something that kept evolving over time.
And you just like it happened to turn into what it is now, which is pretty impressive. I mean,
yeah, thank you. Well, we got a long way to go. You know, there's a lot of people we need to help. There's a lot of other things that people don't talk about in the credit space that we could do, that we can educate. I mean, you know, you guys have known us long enough. We've been in this building many times speaking. I mean, we always lead from education.
Yeah.
You know, and I love when we come here and we get the engagement that we do. There's always questions. It never turns into a presentation. It's almost like a round table, a little Q&A.
There's always that one slide that you get to, right? I feel like it's always the same slide.
yeah, the 5 factors
Yes.
on how a score works, and you know, it's a really engaging piece. But that tells me that, you know, we're doing the right things, and it's not just prospective buyers like coming in. It's agents, it's even other lenders too, because things change.
Yeah.
You know, so laws change, and even on the flip side, like speaking to lenders, hey, like what's changing on your end, because it helps all sides. You know, so it's the impact that it brings. It's been fun. It's been amazing. And like I said, it's not on our radar. But I think the other important thing coming into this industry, you see there's a lot of, you know, for a nice term, a lot of tomfoolery from like other people coming in, false expectations. You know, we can make this happen in a short amount of time, and that's not how it works.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off whatsoever, but you're literally like, my brain is, excuse me, going. So like, what are some misconceptions then that you would think people have about credit repair?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, first of all, it's that it can happen overnight, right? Like, hey, you know, you can get an 800 credit score in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. That's just impossible. That is an impossible. That's a fact, right? It's not going to happen. Even get to the 800s, you need some aged accounts to even get there. The other misconception is that everything is geared on negative accounts. Right? Oh, get this removed, get that removed, get this updated, get these late payments updated, all this stuff. Negative item, removal. A lot of people are geared towards removal. Sure, that's a piece of the puzzle. But what's equally as important is what's that foundation? What is all of this stuff on there, either positive that's there, or what's not there that's really built up? Because if you really think about it, in a perfect world, if you had all this negative stuff on there, right? And say if we did get everything removed, well, what are you left with then?
Right.
You have nothing, right? So now you had a bad score with a bunch of negative items. You wiped it, right? Now you're at zero. So you still have to start over or rebuild anyway. So it's kind of the approach we take a look at it, it's kind of at the same time mix. Okay, what's on the positive? What can we do on the negative? And I think the last thing too, to touch on that negative, is that they assume that everything has to be gone in order for their score to be great. And that's just not true at all. You know, I could sit here and tell you tons of myths and so forth as to why or what shakes it up different and how you see it in the industry, because there is a lot of myths that we actually post a lot about that debunk them all the time.
Which is so informative, because now let me ask you this. Do you think the average person is just assuming to like wipe everything clean? Like, you don't know what you don't know. Do you know what I mean? Or like, do you think the average person is just coming up with this, or that they were misinformed by others?
Yeah, well, it's probably a combination of misinformed by others or reading something online. Right? You know, saw a Facebook ad or a YouTube channel or their Uncle Harry, you know, something like that. Hey, you have to have this removed. You know, even somebody coming in, hey, this address on here is not mine. Okay, well, was it at one point? You know, not discrediting that it's not, because errors actually do happen a lot. You know, a lot of this stuff on here is based on errors. And yeah, I did live there. Oh, okay. So you did have that address at one point. Yeah, but I'm not there anymore. And it's like, listen, like, sure, like, that's an easy fix, but it's not a deal breaker. It's not going to stop you from getting a home, right? I have all these inquiries that are over a year old, and like, they're holding my score back. Not really. You know, like, more than likely not. You know, if they were newer than a year, sure. So many in a row, yeah, that could be problematic, but that's not your deal breaker. Like, and I always ask questions, right? Or the team, we always ask questions. Well, why do you think that? Because we want to engage with them and see, hey, where are you learning this? Why are you learning this? Well, here's the truth to it. Okay, here's some facts. Here's where you can find this stuff. Here's what we have done for other people. And kind of try to get that guard down a little bit and get them to realize that, okay, it always seems like everybody wants to be right.
Yeah.
But it's like, look, like, here's what it is. And I always say to other referral agents, right, or anybody in the industry, it's like, look, we'll be the bad guy for you. It's okay. We'll paint that reality. Like, no, this is why this is not why for that. And it's like, if we had to be that bad guy, we'll be that bad guy. And I think that's the other problem, to go back to your previous question, is that people don't give clear expectations to reality. Like, no, you're not going to get a house in 3 months. You're pretty bad. It's probably going to take a year, maybe 6 months if you're lucky. Right? On the worst end, it could even be 18. So, you have to paint that picture and educate them to understand, hey, it's not only about today, but what about in the future? Could this be your last time you're buying a home or even a car? Or solar is becoming a big one now. So you're still going to need that at some point.
So do you find that when you meet with people, are they apprehensive, do you think? Like, I feel like that could be an awkward conversation. Or is it not? I'm just assuming.
Well, the good thing is it's that, hey, look, a conversation, there's always value in it. We're not charging for the conversation per se anyway. So look, come in, what's the problem? And we're going to give you the facts, right? Enough knowledge for you to make a decision to either let us help you or we're not for you. And that's it. Again, it's all about keeping it real and giving those realistic expectations. But again, like you said, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so I think people are just looking to get questions answered, looking to get educated. What's the goal? I think when everything's tied to the goal, it's like, look, if you're looking to get into your home, or especially your first home, like, these things are going to have to be done. Regardless if we do them, you do them yourself, or if somebody else does them. Because if you're not going to take some type of action, you're going to be stuck here for longer than you need to be. Sure, will it get better over time? Yeah, you're not going to be handcuffed there forever, but what's that time? Is it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Or if you take some actions, invest into yourself in whatever manner that may be, and get yourself some results and move forward to that goal, you're going to accelerate that time a lot quicker.
Now, you said something that really stuck with me. You said just to be real with everyone. You just want to be as real. Do you ever find anybody who comes to have the conversation with you, but they may not actually be as, well, for lack of better terms, as bad off? I don't know how else to word that, but as they are, and like that you may not be beneficial. Does that ever happen?
It actually happens a lot more frequently than you would imagine. And that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
You never have a problem with that. So a lot of times if somebody does come in, it's a couple tweaks. You might have to pay down, some personal debt, some credit card debt, because your usage is at 70%. Let's get it down to under 20. Can't guarantee you what the point increase is going to be, but you're going to have a point increase. It'll probably be significant. So now you're looking at the difference from a 600 to maybe a 680, or maybe a 630 to being over 700. I will tell you this, to kind of shift a little bit, that happens with a lot of business owners.
Oh.
We do, so I know this is geared all towards real estate, but a lot of stuff we're doing today is geared towards the business owner too. Again, never saw this path coming, right? Business credit, whole different animal. But there's still a lot of personal credit that is tied together with business credit. They want to know who's writing the checks, right? Do you check out? Yeah, your business might check out, but do you check out too? You still have to personal guarantor it. And there are some funding companies and other business lending companies, that we're partnered with, and they'll send business owners all the time, hey, this client needs a line of credit, this client needs equipment financing, and so forth. Okay, what's the issue? Well, they're 40 to 50 points short. Oh, okay. And then you start speaking of, hey, where's your credit at? Oh, it's here, it's 650 or whatever, I need to be at 700. And then the first question I always ask them, because it's critical, going back to the 5 factors, do you have anything negative? No. Do you pay everything on time? Yes. I already know what the problem is. You have too much credit card debt or open balances. And then I can take a look at that. Hey, do XYZ, pay this off. And by the way, you need to get yourself some business credit cards, get this off your personal credit report, and then it always solves the problem. And that's the beauty of doing the right thing. It's one of our core values in our companies, do the right thing. So if you don't need us, we're going to tell you don't need us. You're not a number. It's like, hey, you're doing the right things. Even if they're doing the wrong things, we always make sure we edify to any potential client or anybody in consultation. Yeah, you might have these negatives, but this is also what you're doing right, and continue to do this and build on that as well. So yeah, we don't take everybody.
I didn't know actually that that personal credit and business credit were separate. I never thought about it. Yeah. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, my mind is like literally blown right now because I was
it's a different podcast.
It is. I didn't even know, but it makes sense. But I can only imagine. So the fact that things are now going that way just opens your horizon though to helping so many more people. Yeah.
So if you do want to talk about real estate and business credit, you investors out there, that have LLCs and have properties under that, start shifting some of those things under the LLC and keep them off your personal credit. So instead of going to Home Depot or some supply house, right, and you're swiping your personal Chase card or Discover, start getting business credit cards under the LLC entity that keeps that off your personal credit report. Sure, you'll have to personal guarantor them as well, but now you have essentially another credit profile at your disposal. So some of the tricks of the trade over the years.
That has to be so beneficial to so many of our listeners right now, because I didn't even know that.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, every year we've been in business, there's something new that we know, but we're getting versed into better. Business credit wasn't even on our radar until 2021, like after we started, because it's just once COVID hit, it changed the bunch of different dynamics. Sure. There were some other laws. There were some things that we practice, especially when we used to be in the Amazon space. So there's a lot of things we did with business credit and Amazon at the time. And these are things that helped us. It helps other people too, especially in real estate, for investors and so forth.
So how important is credit when buying a house? Like, tell me.
I mean, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's no offense to Dave Ramsey. He's good on certain things, but when it comes to real estate, nobody's going to spend $300,000. Like nobody even has $300,000. Most people don't even have $300,000, right, to drop on a home.
Right.
There's positives about having debt. In that sense, and you need good credit for that, especially for real estate. I don't want to get into the whole tax stuff.
No, of course.
But again, there's benefits to that, and I don't think they're talked enough about that. The benefits of home ownership, the benefits of having some type of mortgage. Credit's everything, and again, there's no education really on how money works, and there's really nothing about how even credit works properly, right? The way credit's marketed, it's buy now, pay later. I'm not talking about how bad credit card interest is or anything like that. It's just buy now, pay later. Hey, get stuff you can't afford. Well, how about if you want to earn passive income per se? Everybody loves that passive income word, but if you want to get in, let me rephrase that. If you want to get into real estate, or if you want to leverage a business, how do you use credit properly to do that? How there's right ways to do that, and they say cash is king. I say credit's everything. Because that can change your scenario or any scene to what you're doing overnight. And the reason I say it that way, you can get a house. What can you do a couple years down the road? Well, I could refinance it if my credit's good, or I can leverage it and start building a real estate portfolio, or leverage it to do something else. So credit's everything. If you have credit, you have so many opportunities to unlock doors that I think a lot of people don't understand what they have at their disposal.
I agree with you. I feel like I'm in my early 30s, and I'm learning right now about being an adult. Basically, it wasn't taught to me, about the importance of owning a house, having credit cards, having that credit. And I do feel like the education isn't out there. However, I will say I feel like Trifecta is doing amazing at getting it out there, though. Like, your social media is buzzing with info all the time, and I think everybody needs to hear it, whether it applies to them right now or in the future. I don't think enough people probably are utilizing that because it is so pressing in today's time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of things that people don't understand about credit is that it can be built, rebuilt, it can get damaged, it can get repaired kind of rather quickly. And when I say quickly, now look, every scenario is different, so take this with a grain of salt. But a year is a fair kind of assessment to readjust something. And a lot of times people always think they're worse off than they actually are. The biggest impact that I've seen now, I mean, look, we know how big or how kind of inflated, I guess, rentals have become here, right? Like they're expensive. You're pricing people out of the market. You're pricing people that have lived here for decades that they can't afford to live here anymore. But then when you explain, look, like, yeah, homes have gone up too, but the cost of home ownership as opposed to renting, like, oh, well, I don't think I could do it, or my credit's not that good. Well, how do you know? How do you really know? Did you do your research? Did you really look in depth to see if you can afford a home? Because credit's the first thing. And if you could get through that barrier of entry, then, a lender or a real estate agent or bringing all that together, they'll let you know the next steps. Hey, what are the next steps? Well, down money, or can you afford this, right? It's probably easier to get in than showing 3 times the amount of rental income or 3 times the amount of income for a rental.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I think most people would be surprised how in the running they are to buy a home. A lot of them think it's out of reach. Yeah. It's really not.
Like it could be in your future. Like you have to work for it a little bit, but
yeah, and even down money, that's always a big thing. I mean, look, there's grants. There's always ways to get that down money in.
Just gotta work for it and do the research and figure it out. But at least it's good to know, though, that you have somebody like yourself who is taking the time to teach and educate people about that, because like I said, it's not known. I don't know. I just feel like it's not one of those things that are thrown in your face like everything else is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that there's something by design that's done that way, whether that's for lending purposes or whatever. I look at sometimes in the credit industry, and some people will be like, hey man, like, why do you talk about that? You're in the industry. Like that's how you get paid. Sure. But to keep it honest, it's your debt is their asset. So if you're not educating really on how not to pay 30% interest rate on credit cards, I don't even know how that's legal. To pay some absurd interest. Or another crazy one that I've seen somebody pay 20% on a 10-year-old car on an auto loan, on a buy here pay here loan. Like, to me, like, that's like, where do you draw the line? That sounds almost criminal. So it's the education piece. It's everything, and you don't have to be in that position. I think people also feel helpless to where it's this is my life, this is where it is, and it's how it's always been. So these are the actions and steps that I'm always going to take, which I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I agree with you. I fell victim to. I say it like I fell victim to. I was paying I recently sold my car when I realized I was like, making double payments, just trying to get it paid off. And I looked, I'm like, why is this not going anywhere? I had a 23% interest rate.
Really?
I literally I bought the car when I was younger. I had it for 4 years, and I was like, why do I still and like I said, I looked at it, and for probably about a week, I was walking around here, and I was like so mad at myself. Just like, how did I let this, how did I do this? But I was young, and it was the first time I ever did it without my dad, and I didn't know. And literally 2 weeks later, I sold that, and I, bought my mom minivan now with a much lower interest rate in the single digits. That's awesome. Yeah, when you're going from one to the other, and I can say I didn't understand it, years ago when I bought it. I was buying a car for the very first time, and I was doing it as an adult, and my dad wasn't there, and I was like, okay, I'll sign whatever you want me to sign, and I could afford, the payments were affordable, but they weren't going anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing the right thing. Like you said earlier, I'm adulting now.
That's it. That's it. And that was like, I was like, oh my God.
But the same, take it back to what I said earlier, to when, that crash happened and, some events in my life up to that point, I was in my early 20s, early to almost mid 20s, and going through that time too. Hey, I'm doing the right things. I'm paying this down. Yeah, I screwed it up, but I'm paying it back. And there was a lot of mistakes that I made, like knowing, oh man, like what did I do here? But, I look back at that kind of stuff, and maybe you can too. It's like, okay, well, this is an investment now in learning like how this stuff really works, and I'm not going to do that again.
It was definitely noted, like understand things, trial and error. We'll say trial and error. It's fine, but it happened, and
well, it's funny you mentioned that about the cars because I love cars. I've always been like in that car and motorcycle world, and I know most dealers, right? Not like me. I'll buy a brand, right? But a lot of people, it's like, hey, I just need to get into a car, and when they're doing that, it's they're thinking, okay, well, what's my monthly price? And they're not looking at anything else. Oh, I don't care what the interest is. I'm looking for something that's $400 a month. Can you get it to me?
That's exactly what I was thinking about. That's wholeheartedly. I was like, yep, I can afford that all by myself, like what my payment was. And then how many years later, it's not ending. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, this car is not even
front loaded with interest.
It was definitely 100%.
Yeah.
So I was like I was driving around a 2015 Dodge Dart. And I called it my race car because it had aftermarket mufflers, so it was so loud. I was paying race car money for not a race car.
Hey, but you learned something important about that. And sometimes, it does come at a cost, but at least you got out of it rather quickly. And it's like, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So and again, like you said, hey, this is a car I wanted, but I got caught up in the price. Well, it's in my price range. Okay, well, what's everything on the back end? How many years do I have to pay this for? I'm paying this for 7. That's a lot of money for 7 years. So then what's the interest rate? And a lot of people aren't thinking that. It's, hey, I'm in a certain position. I'm making a certain amount of money. This is what I can afford. Get it in my budget. And then that's where the question's at. They don't ask anything else. Oh, get it in my budget? Okay, so we could do this for 8 years. Okay, well, I'm not thinking ahead of 8 years, right? So it's, okay, that's in my, but like those are the questions or the answers that should be answered on the back end with that nobody's talking about. Hey, we found something in your budget. Okay, give it to me. Not how long, not for how many, how much interest and all that stuff, so.
I do have to say, I looked at it actually after you spoke at one of our events here, and you were talking about credit and everything, and it was literally after that I looked at my own. I didn't know until just here as just a guest. So I can only imagine the amount of like information that you provide to an actual consultation. This was me in a group of like 30 people just listening, and I took something away, and I was like, oh gosh, like what am I doing with my life? Like this is not okay. So you were impactful then. So like I said, I can only imagine how much value you bring to like a client who you're working with solely, So tell me about your team. It's not just you at Trifecta. I'm sorry, it's not just you. So tell me about your team there.
Yeah, so I have 2 awesome partners. My partner Brad. He's a multi-passionate businessman. My partner Renan, who actually came up with me in credit almost 10 years ago. They're both awesome. This wouldn't be what it is also without the both of them. Our team, a bunch of our sales reps, our disputing department, our back end. Mike Medina, who's also our business development manager. We have a Spanish team as well. I could name a lot of people on there, but we would be here for a while. But shout out to everybody on the team, and they're awesome. They're loved not only by me. Our clients speak highly of them as well. It's just kind of how when we speak to you guys about educating and so forth, obviously train and reiterate that to them, like with our mission statement and our core values. Hey, always do the right thing, educate, make sure people know what they're doing right, and also, hey, how we can be a force to help you with what is wrong or what you're doing wrong as well.
Well, I can only imagine, like I said, how impactful your conversations really are, because I've said this to everybody. If ever I say anything about you, I always say he could literally talk about anything and I'm engaged. Like, you just have that presence about you. Brad does too, and I'm just like right there. I am just listening, taking notes, and getting new cars that benefit me because I'm paying too much for what I had. So
thank you. We appreciate that. And the thing is too, like we're still growing, so people are coming through every day, looking for new positions and so forth.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's been fun. It's very good, gratifying to say that, because it's not just, I look at it a little more, kind of in depth. Yes, we're helping people out in the credit world, but I also want to make an impact for those within our ecosystem too.
Sure.
To help provide us as a resource to somebody in their family to work with us. And that I'm grateful for, because that speaks that a lot of people believe in us and what we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Do you find that you get a lot of referrals then from people that you've worked with? Like,
yeah, not only clients but other agents, and like helping them close more loans as well, so it reciprocates, and also to give back to that is not only speaking at your events here and other places, but looking to bring that in-house. It's like, okay, well, it just makes sense to do that here. Yes, we used to be next door in that little tiny office over there, but the space we're in now, we can accommodate some people over there too, and just to kind of locally be that credit force.
Now, where are you now?
So we're on Hamilton Boulevard, 4536, right across from Sioka Subaru. We're downstairs from Just Aesthetic Nursing. Also a lot of people don't know we're a nationwide company too. So it's not just locally here, so we do business across the country.
That's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So like, how does that work? Do you like do it all virtually? Do you travel, like phone calls?
Yeah, so a lot of stuff is, well, believe it or not, even locally, most of our client interaction is 99% phone call.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know. I just would never realized.
A lot of people, well, again, you're talking about credit. It's not, it's kind of like, is it really that sensitive of a subject? I think it's more of a demoralizing thing, like, hey, I'm in this position, I don't pay my bills. Look, it's a judgment-free zone.
Sure.
Like, I'm no better than anybody else either. I've been on both sides of the fence, so again, like I said, if it's broken, it can be fixed, probably quicker than you're assuming, or not as bad as you think. So a lot of people, for whatever reason, they don't come in. Sure, some people will come in, they want to see a face to the name, but most people, and again, it goes back to the referral, they're already working with somebody they know, like, and trust. If they're with a lender, hey, they know, like, and trust that person. Hey, you have a problem here, go see these guys. So they already have that interaction, kind of makes it a little easier. With social world now, through social media or even in the ad space, a lot of people, like, that's just the way they do business now. They see, we'll make a phone call or send a text.
Sure.
It's kind of weird for me because, remember, I aged myself a little bit over in the 90s. They're used to picking up the phone, and now everybody wants to, text or whatever. And hey, whatever works.
Right, accommodate whatever you need. You're there to help, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's the name of the game. Like, we're here to help. We're here to help you get your desired goal and your desired results. But yeah, it's been unique doing that across the country, seeing different area codes come through.
Well, that's very exciting, and yeah, it has to be certainly gratifying knowing that you're reaching that many people.
Yeah, but home is still always where the heart is. So things like this, the events that you guys hold here, doing face-to-face stuff, like that will never change. So
right,
yeah,
which is amazing to just know that you're still, like, there in the community, putting yourself out there. I've seen you at different events, and just reaching as many people as possible. I think it's important because you made a difference for me, and it was literally just at one of our closing cafe chats where you were talking to everybody. So I can only imagine.
Well, and that means a lot. It's just one conversation or one bit of advice that could literally change the picture of somebody's future. And like, you know, to me, that's priceless, you know, and you can't put a dollars and cents on that.
Right.
Like, it's one thing, like for me, it's if somebody asks me a question, I'll always answer it. Not be like, oh yeah, schedule a call or pay me $100 for 30 minutes. Like,
Right.
oh, what's your problem? Oh, I need to, okay, do X, Y, Z. Yo, man, that changed my life. Like, oh, man, that's great. All right, cool. That's awesome.
Glad to help.
Yeah, no, it does. Like that makes me happy. Some people think I'm crazy that I don't do that. Like, oh, you don't bill, lawyers do that. Okay, whatever. I'm not a lawyer, so.
Right. Well, I appreciate all the savings you've given me personally from just hearing one of your speeches there. So, like I've said, obviously you've just helped somebody. If anybody, before we go, if anybody does feel like you could help them or just want to know some more information, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? I just want to make sure they are.
Yeah, the best way, you can always look us up online, www.trifectacreditsolutions.com. And the first thing that pops up is our call calendar. So if you need something right away, you can schedule a time to speak to somebody. If you want to speak to yours truly, send me an email. I'm always on my email. Dave, D-A-V-E, you know, common spelling. Do we need to put that out there? No, but all seriousness, Dave at trifectacreditsolutions.com. Send me an email. You can reach us out directly, toll free, 844-FIGHT-GO-NOW. If you need the numbers, that's 342-6669.
Sounds good. Perfect. Well, Dave, thank you so much for sitting with me and chatting. I appreciate it. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime. So
thank you, Lizzie. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Well, that's another episode of Beyond the Closing. We'll see you next time.